Hello. So today we are going to talk about basic gardening terms, and it's going to be amazing. And the whole credit. And I have used a lot of words in last what it has been 19 days now, 18 days, 19 days. This is 19th day that we are doing it, and we have used a lot of terms. And I understand that there are many terms as a beginner. They appear to be totally a challenge. That's why today we are going to talk about terms, gardening terms, and what they mean. Is everyone able to hear me well? Because while I'm not getting any notification or issue, but there's something missing, it seems. Hi Kiran, hi Aparna, hi Aisha, Oh, we have Aisha and Isha. Hi Charmi, hi Ashwini, hi Harpreet Kaur, hi Sneha, hi Sushma, hi Maliman, hi Sunita. Sunita commented that she missed yesterday's session, but good to see you here today. Oh, I think not Sunita, it was Subita. Ah, uh, okay. Yes, Ashwini says yes, Sharmisha says yes, Harpreet says yes, Aparna says yes. Perfect. So let's begin with the terms that we use as gardeners and which can become pretty challenging at times. And so let's talk about basic gardening terms. Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry, it never happens, but okay. I'm sorry for this. Okay. So let's start with the terms that we have done right now during these live sessions. We have started a seed, right? So let's talk about the seed first and the terms related to the seed. Firstly, I would like to say what is a seed. And while I think it's very obvious or easy or generally understandable for everyone, uh, this is a Rajma seed or bean, they say. What is important or why it's important is we are used to seeing seeds like these. We are used to seeing seeds like these, but there are many times when you'll be seeing seeds which are not like this. So do you know a fruit? I mean, this is just a fun question. Do you know a fruit which has seeds outside the fruit and not inside? Normally we are used to seeing the seeds inside the fruit, but say a fruit that it's going to be outside. Strawberry is one. Anu, you're right. Cashew is one. Cashew, yes. Strawberry, right. Now, cashew still, the seed comes in a form that we expect it to be a seed, but strawberry, you have to understand, it doesn't look like a seed. It looks like thorns or something furry outside. And so a seed generally has just 2 or 3 main components that we are able to see. And obviously in a seed like strawberry, it's mostly from internet that you will know that it's a seed. You're not going to check this. But there's always going to be something called like in this Rajma, it is very clearly visible. It's an eye, a place from which the germination will start, right? That is generally very clearly visible on seeds. From some seeds, it might be difficult, but the seed is something that you can put in a soil. You can, if you give it right conditions, it is going to germinate and create a new plant. So that's the definition that we're going to go for the seed. And then it brings us to another thing, which is called a bulb, right? Bulb we get for lilies, we get it for tulips, and we get it for a lot of other things. So the difference between the bulb and this thing, onion, right? So the difference between a bulb and say a seed is That bulb is created underground. It is a living part of the root, and essentially it's just a period of dormancy that it has. Seed is created by the fruit. After the flower pollinates, then the fruit is made, and we'll come to all these definitions, and then we get a seed. Now let's come to what is germination. And I know the initial terms are going to be very simple, but I'm just catching up to the terms. So germination is essentially when a seed gets the right condition, it creates some signs of growth, right? Something new starts coming out of it. And that brings us to the next word. I'm going to start typing here also. Let's say cotyledons. When we are talking about cotyledons, you understand what is a cotyledon, or when a seed germinates, you see these two leaves that come out, which I said they're like a solar panel for the plant. And I get a lot of questions, especially when we did the coriander, how to grow coriander. And they're like, I sow coriander from my kitchen, but something else is growing. It is not coriander which is growing, right? And that's the thing. So the first two leaves that come, like first two leaves, are called cotyledons. They do not resemble the shape and the size of the actual plant leaves. It is very important to remember this, because I also know a couple of people who have removed those plants thinking they are unwanted growth, and I'm waiting for my coriander, or I'm waiting for my actual plant to come. So that is your actual plant. So initially you will always have two leaves, and they're called cotyledons, and they do not resemble the size and shape of the actual plant. And then it brings us to something called true leaves. It's very important, this term. And why it is important is also when you go online and you look at, say, information. You need to be searching the right terms, and you need to be, when you get the information, it will have the same terms. So, true leaves, which is True. True leaves are the leaves which come after cotyledons. These are the leaves which resemble your plant's actual leaves. They are the actual leaves, right? And so most of the times when you have instructions regarding germination of seeds, it will be divided into two parts: before true leaves and after true leaves kind of instructions, right? So the first cotyledons is just to keep the initial plant surviving and to make true leaves. After true leaves come, then it resembles the plant, then we can move it to a bigger pot and other things. But today we are talking about the terms. So the term true leaves refers to the presence of leaves which are actually look like the plant's real leaves. Any other question you have related to seeds or these terms, or any term that you wanted to know which we have not covered, you can leave it here, and I will take them. Now let's come to another topic that we did, which was related to pruning. And so pruning, we understand. Pruning is to cut the stem, basically. For a reason, why do we prune? We prune to promote growth, right? Or to fight a disease. I mean, that's another thing. But pruning is essentially you are cutting the plant stalks, stems, to promote growth or to get rid of a disease. But what about deadheading? Have you heard of a term called deadheading? Just put in comment what you think is deadheading. I'll get something to show you. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so we will deadheading. Okay, So pruning we understood. Pruning is essentially when we are trimming the plant. We discussed yesterday, money plant we discussed. We have discussed at another place also. And we will discuss it more because I have a couple of dead plants that I will try to revive. So I think tomorrow we'll do reviving dead plants. Okay, Manu, just note this. Tomorrow we'll do reviving dead plants. But so what is dead heading? Is when a plant has a flower and now the flower has wilted, right? The flower has wilted and you remove. So firstly, this is also a tip. I have not covered it, I think, anywhere. But if you want more flowers from your plant, you have to do deadheading. Let me write it down. So what is deadheading? You have this plant, this flower has wilted. I remove it from the stem. Okay. You have to remove the whole flower along with the base. Okay, so what I don't want you doing is, you don't have to do this. Don't take this off. Don't remove just the petals. Don't do that to the plant. This is known as deadheading. And does anyone know why this works? And you can do it for every flower. I mean, for some of them, you'll need a tool. For others, you can do by hand. This is petunia. I can do it by hand. If it's a rose flower, you have to take a tool and cut it out. Okay, Dr. Shweta, the flower gave away. So why we do this essentially is, and these are, okay, so this example, my plant in question is a bit wrong because this has really dry flowers, but you have to do it as soon as the flower wilts. I mean, when in the active spring season, I would deadhead petunia every day because every day flowers are blooming and there are other flowers which are wilting. So we would do it every day, right? Yes, Dr. Shweta is right. So what we are doing is we are conserving plants' energy, which it would have used to make seeds. If we don't want seeds, if we want flowers, then we deadhead so that the plant doesn't waste energy making seeds. And that's the idea. And I'll tell you one thing. This is a bit off topic of term, but it will really help in understanding. There are two purposes that plants have. I mean, essentially, there's just one purpose for nature, that is to survive and to reproduce and to grow. So, when we do trimming, when we do pruning, basically, what we are doing is, when we are pruning, we are giving plant a signal as if it is under threat, right? The plants flower so they can reproduce and they can grow and they can spread. But once they start making seeds and the seed completion is there is no reason for them to continue blooming, essentially. So by removing the flowers, what we are doing is the plant is continuously wanting to reproduce and make seeds, and that's why it is flowering more and more, right? The same thing is a principle with bougainvillea. How do you get it to flower? So typically you don't give it water for months. That's what they do. You see those brilliantly beautiful bougainvilleas in nurseries. They don't get water for months at times. And then they start getting water and nutrition. Now plant remembers that I had a survival issue. Now I want to survive. I should start flowering. Essentially, that's the idea. Now, you don't want to put all your plants under stress or things like that. The idea is, if you want flowers, once the flower wilts, you deadhead it. You remove the flower so that the plant wants to continue making flowers so that it can create seeds and it can grow. Just give me 1 second. I closed the door when I came back. Okay. So we have done pruning, we have done deadheading, we have done things related to seed. Uh, I think one more term. Let's start the terms with soil now. In soil, we talk about loosening this. Okay, there's a concept called loosening the soil, or in Hindi we call it gudai karna, right? Tilling. Tilling is probably an English term for gudai. I don't know what it is called in uh, your language. You can share it. And okay, okay. I think then my speed is fine because people are taking notes. So yeah. So loosening the soil essentially making means taking something and I'll show, because this is a I I don't know how to explain it. You put it here and then you loosen the soil. You basically turn the soil is also called. I think some places it says turning the soil. And why it is useful is it aerates. It gives aeration to the roots. Roots are able to develop better. The water is distributed more evenly, and the weeds are removed from the pot. And what's a weed? I mean, in the gardening terms, I mean, when we talk about weed, what is a weed? And that is a very important thing to understand, because people put out, is it a weed or not a weed? And uh, loosen in every place where plants are. Yes. So Makshi says Nirai, it's called okay. So for weed, essentially it is any unwanted plant, right? It's any unwanted plant. And basically what you wanted to plant, it's not that. And why it's called a weed? Because it so basically what I'm saying is, when you plant tulsi, that's your plant. But a tulsi plant growing in some other pot can be a weed. Or say for the same matter, I mean, there are plants which propagate really fast. Basil is one. Coriander, mint. Now, any unwanted plant is your weed. And why that is important is, if this is not a plant that you planted, it is competing with your main plant for nutrition, space, and light. That's what we say. Typically, high growers, plants which can really grow very fast, very big, with very less space, very less nutrition. These are generally the characteristics of a weed, and we need to remove them. When you loosen the soil, basically you disturb the weed growing when it is very small. So you don't have to do a manual removal later and all. And the trouble with these unwanted plants is they can grow from root also, many of them. Even though you remove them, some part of it gets left behind. They're still competing with your plant. And that's why also loosening of soil is very important. Or as Somakshi says, Nirai it is called. We call it Gudai. So any physical manipulation is tillage of soil. I think, thank you Shivalik for that. So loosening of the soil or tilling, this is very important. The term is important. The activity is important. One of the most underrated thing, but extremely important, right? What was the other points? Okay, so let's talk about the soil then. So there are a couple of things that we talk about soil. I have used these terms. I have used terms like a well-drained soil. What does it mean to have a well-drained soil, right? Uh, and if we look at the spectrum, then we have well-drained soil. Then people say garden soil. Just use any garden soil, right? What does it mean to have a garden soil? Or clay, or sand. And this is the spectrum that we are working with. So sand is essentially, it has zero nutrition component. Uh, and if you water, the water just flows through right away, it not holding anything if not for the shape of the container. It's just because of the shape of the container that the sand holds something for some time, otherwise it will just run through. That is a characteristic of sand, right? When we say well-drained soil, it basically means when you water, anything excess is going to just go down through the holes. If holes are not, if holes are there, if holes are not there, then that's another issue, and that we'll come to that. But essentially, nothing is being held just because it is being filtered through. When you make coffee, like filter coffee, you put water, right? You put water and it slowly seeps through, right? Because the holes are very minute, the water is not able to percolate that fast and things like that. That is not well drained. You get my point? Well drained is, uh, it will, it can still hold moisture. That is very important thing to understand. A well drained soil can still hold moisture, but the fact is whatever amount of moisture it is going to hold, it's going to hold that, but it's not going to block the flow of water from up to down. That's the characteristic. So well drained soil doesn't mean that it cannot hold moisture. Cocoa peat, we put cocoa peat in well drained soil, it does hold water. So holding water is fine, as in absorbing water is fine. It should not block water from going from top to bottom. That's essentially a well-drained soil. Then comes garden soil. By garden soil, essentially what we mean is anything that you find normally. So it's not sand, it's not any special kind of a soil. Any soil that you'll find in park, you will find in your pots mostly in general. No specific, any special material is there. It doesn't matter. So that is called as garden soil. When I'm saying it doesn't matter, I'm saying in terms of definition of garden soil, by garden soil we mean anything that you find normally. So garden soil will have naturally decaying matter in it because leaves fall and things like that. And sometimes you should just manually remove things. And if you're taking it from a park outside, you should remove those plastic things and cloth things which you might find there. But then you'll be left with what is called as garden soil. And then it's clay. Clay is on the extreme end to sand. Sand is going to let all the water seep through. Clay is not going to let the water seep through. There is the molecules, or the, what would you call it, of clay are so closely bound together that there's actually a chemical attraction between them. Imagine if you mix perlite. Perlite is used to add aeration to soil, right? To loosen the soil, to increase drainage to soil. But you know what? If you add perlite to clay, over time clay will separate out perlite. Perlite will come on top after a time of couple of months, and clay would be at bottom, because that's the kind of attraction that the clay has with each other, and they don't let the water seep through. So it's good for some plants. It is used by nursery people because of one reason, that when we have to transfer plants so much from, like, say, across India, with a clay at the bottom, you can just pick up the plant, clay will keep on the root, and essentially you don't have to worry that you'll uproot the plant. And that's why you see clay in nurseries. Otherwise, clay is not a soil that is preferred for your plants at all. The only reason that it is used is so that they can pick up the plants by hand without taking it out. Okay. Is it okay to use only coco peat? Yes, but add some plant food sticks, fertilizer sticks, give some nutrition essentially. Just coco peat, I mean, is going to be tricky. And also for what? Yesterday we were discussing on live, and don't use coco peat for, what do you say, succulents. Succulents don't like moisture. Coco peat loves to hold moisture. I mean, not loves to. Its purpose is to hold moisture. So that's the difference. Now let's talk about misting. What is misting? Misting is basically you're creating water droplets in the air, right? I don't know if I can mist here. I mean, I don't want to spoil my laptop. Do you see anything? I don't know if it is visible. But this is called misting. And why misting is important? Misting is important generally to give a kind of to increase humidity around the leaves and the plant. And it's different from watering. You water the soil and you mist the leaves. Okay, so that's a huge difference. Some people keep asking me that you talk about misting, but then you say water the soil, don't water the plants. That's the difference. In misting, the water particles, the droplets are so small, and when you water, you're watering like this, right? And so there is a clear difference there between misting and watering, and we need to take care of that. I'm getting my order mixed up of the terms, but there's another term I wanted to talk about, that is a plant getting leggy. Can you guess what is meant by plant getting leggy? How often should we mist the plants? Now that it's going to be summers, and if you have plants like money plant and all, I would mist them daily. But a leggy plant, this is like a leggy plant, I would say, but since it's syngonium, I don't know whether it fits into the definition. Leggy plant is basically when you have too high a stalk, right? And then you have leaves. And it doesn't mean it has to be too high like this high. For Sadabahar, you know Vinca, periwinkle, Sadabahar plant. You can either have a full bushy Sadabahar, or you can have Sadabahar growing like 1 foot tall with 10 leaves, right? So the second option is basically it getting leggy. It basically means that when the plant was growing, or in general, you didn't prune it, you didn't trim it, you didn't give it a reason to spread across. The other thing is maybe it was not in a good place where it was getting light. So it has those leaves and then it is searching for light. It is not able to find light. So it's keep getting those leaves in that direction of light, right? So once you start seeing your plants getting leggy, if there are not enough leaves and you can't trim it, at least put it into a brighter spot. Put it into a place where it can get good light, right? Very important, extremely important. Do this. Manoj, can you put the other terms? So the reason why we have this session and why generally people tell me that the explanation is good, it is because of Manoj. Manoj is really new to gardening. So even while a lot of feedback I'll get, it was a great session, Manoj would be like, I didn't understand those terms. And that's why he keeps it very real and we are able to make something which is understandable for most people. And that is one of the most important things that I feel. Oh, this one is very good. So what is the difference between a seasonal plant and an annual plant? Let's do this. What's the difference between a seasonal plant and an annual plant? Madly Mad says, take up my question. Where's the question? Okay. Okay, so okay. How many of you feel that an annual plant would remain with you for the whole year across year? That's what annuals mean. How many feel that. Okay, Subita says annual is something which you get around the year. Okay, so this is very important because you're going to go online and you're going to read and you're going to find the term annuals. ANNUALS, right? Annuals. And I have made this mistake. I used to think exactly this, that an annual plant will be year-round plant. No. Annual is the plant which takes 1 year to complete its journey from seed to dead. You get my point? So many plants like say petunias. You plant petunia, I mean, not 1 year, basically it takes the complete season. In the same season, they start from seed, and then the same season they end. Year or less than 1 year. That's the idea. Plants which are going to remain across the year are called perennial plants. Perennials. So like something like this, right? Or annuals. Petunia is an annuals. The only difference is in India, we don't use the term annuals, we use the term seasonal. But when you go online and you read things and you get material or websites which are from other countries, you'll see the term annuals. So very important. Annuals, essentially just think of them as our seasonal plants. And I'll tell you a very interesting thing. So why it is very important is because there can be some plants which are both annuals and perennials, depending upon their variety. Tomato is one such plant. So tomato, what we grow, that is a seasonal plant. Annual plant, it goes from start to end in the same season. But then there are other tomato plants which take a few years to start giving